I am absolutely delighted to welcome Lucy Werner. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Werner or Werner?
Werner. Werner.
Werner. I shouldn't have doubted myself. So welcome, Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you guys?
Great, good. Bar technical difficulties, which are standard to be expected, but we got there. So
we can really test ourselves by how we react in an IT issue.
Yeah, it's definitely quite revealing. So with that in mind, Lucy is not going to be able to see your comments if you're commenting live, but I'm sure we'll be happy to have a check of them later. So Lucy is obviously well known for teaching people how to hype themselves, and that's exactly what you're going to be discussing today. So I will duck out and I'll come back in at the end and just hand over to you, if that's all right, Lucy.
Yeah, that's fine. Put me in. Okay. So look, just before I make it full screen, and I actually kind of actually I can't see anything anyway, so it's fine. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to whiz through this, and then I'll stop at the end. So if you've got any questions, I'll try and hit them at the end with Niki. But without further ado, I'm going to get cracking. So hopefully Niki's going to jump on if you can't see my screen. But we're going to talk about how to hype yourself. If you don't know me, actually, no, let's going to start with a quote from Gary V. So love him or hate him, he's quite a lot like Marmite. Let's get some interaction in the group with a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you do or don't like him. But I personally think he's a great example of someone that does personal branding really well. And he gives this quote that there is no reason to do anything other than act like a media company in today's digital age. And the way I interpret that and the way I get my clients to think about that is when you think of yourself and your business, think of yourself as a mini publication. So who like, what's your front cover look like? What does your branding and design look like? What have you got in news? What have you got in features? Who are the other businesses and people that you want to have in your publication? And all the time that you're communicating with your audience, because to me, PR is more than just getting into press. It's all the ways that you're promoting yourself. It's thinking about you personally as the founder of your business as a media publication. So I'm sure you'll know who I am. If you don't, I'm a PR expert. I've done publicity for 16 years. I've run my own agency for the last 5, focusing more now on DIY PR for small businesses. And normally at this point, I go to the room and try and find out who you are. So an exercise that I quite often get people to do, and we won't do it today, but is to Google yourself or to be in a partnership and Google and see what comes up top. Because not only are we to a stranger what Google says about us, it will also really show us like what's really working hard for us as a business. So when we're going back to thinking of ourselves as that media publication, like think about, it's basically what's clickbait for you. So have you done a partnership that's worked really hard for you? Have you done a podcast that's scoring really high on your SEO? Going through and looking at what comes up when you do a Google search. And I was told the other day, you actually want to be doing that on somebody else's computer because your Google search is pretty much going to show yourself up top because the way your algorithm is going to work. So jump on your friend's machine, do a swapsy, Google yourself, see where you are. It's not narcissistic. We're literally just checking to see how a stranger sees us. So I'm going to whip through these sort of 5 things today, or try to. So without further ado, let's go into strategy. So I'm actually a MailChimp partner. I'm not trying to plug them as a service, but they have an internal mantra, which is listen hard, change fast, and learn constantly. And for me, that's never been more prevalent than we have been in the last 6 months. So I think it would be stupid to not talk about hyping yourself without considering what the wider cultural landscape is at the moment. So, in the last 6 months, we've had the global pandemic. We've had the biggest human rights movement we've seen for a really long time, kicking off in May after the back of the death of George Floyd. And I think, that was a really great example of how people suddenly put up a black square, but didn't actually listen hard, and they were using the wrong hashtag. They were trying to put something up too quickly, and then the learning stopped. Like, we all wanted to jump on the bandwagon and show that we cared and we were good allies, and then we stopped. So actually, it's sometimes just stepping back and being like, even with the pandemic, or something like Black Lives Matter, really listen to what the problem is, really listen to how it's affecting your audience, really think about how you can implement that into your business and change it. And just always be learning. Even I say I'm a PR expert, I'm constantly going to PR talks and PR events. I'm constantly reading the news. I'm constantly reading articles about my industry, because I can't be a position of authority if I'm holding on to thoughts and learnings I've learned from 5 years ago. Okay, so we want to keep evolving as a business, and we want to be able to be reactive to what's happening in the cultural landscape. Hope you're all still with me. I mean, I can't see you anyway, but yeah, good. I'm going to continue. So mission statement. So why are you in your business? What made you do what you wanted to do? Get out the big dusty box from under your bed, have a look in and be like, why have I done this business in the first place, right? Because most people think that getting PR is talking about their product and services. And actually, I'm here to sort of say to you, it's actually about who you are. That's what's going to make you different, and why you set up your business. Okay, so definitely start in the kind of strategy work of thinking about why you've done this business in the first place and what it is that you're trying to achieve. Like, we're not just doing our own businesses to make money, we have a bigger purpose. So let's make sure that's like at the beginning of our journey before we PR ourselves. And think about who and where are your people, right? So there's lots of different niches. Sorry, I'm just going to have to quickly blow my nose. Look at the pictures for a second. Yeah, niching is great. Speak to people all the time. They're scared to niche because they think if they niche on one set of a target audience, they're going to ignore others. And actually, it's really thinking about how you can hit your target in a campaign, right? So it might be that you've got a broad niche depending on what your product or service is, and that changes as your product offering scales. But we have to start somewhere. And the problem is if we try and hit everybody, you're going to be pitching to every single magazine, every single podcast, every single radio show, and it's going to get far too overwhelming. So just start with your target group and really drill down to where they are. So if you're a service business owner, which I think maybe quite a few of you are, it's like, which workspaces are they in? What events are they attending? What platforms they are? Like, you're on Niki's platform today, so there's going to be a certain type of space where your crew, the people who you want to be targeting, are hanging out. So always good to do a bit of work and write down where they are, so you can then think about the ways that you're going to reach them. Okay, quickly into toolkit. Where am I on time? 12:15. I'm very aware that I'm talking so fast, but I just want to get through as much as I can. So I'm just gonna keep going. So look, have a media toolkit in place and update it regularly. I'm a victim of not even doing this myself, but I do try where possible to walk my talk. Let's start with photos. So if you suddenly land a piece of press coverage, if you get invited to comment on a blog, if you're on Niki's event today, if you're on a podcast, whatever it is you're doing, the first thing you're going to get asked for is a photo. And I would say, so I'm just going to turn my WhatsApp off. I would say that you want to make sure that you have portrait and landscape, because when you think about a blog post, you're in landscape form, and it means if you're only sending them a portrait shot, they're going to have to crop it, and it automatically A, gives them more work, and B, is not going to look as great. The other reason why I tell people to do a landscape shot is because when you think about print news, obviously when you get a newspaper, it's like this, right? And you get the big images in the middle. And quite often I've been able to take the lead in articles myself and my clients by submitting a really well taken landscape photo. So yeah, get your photos done, get them done regularly. So when I say regularly, I mean at least once a year if possible, so you're not having the same photos of yourself out there all the time. Bio. If possible, make sure you have a place on your website where you can download your images and bio. I actually had this with Niki. She was chasing me my images and bio. I was like, here's the link. You can take everything you want from there. So it's ready. I can do it on the fly. It's not something else I need to do on my email. And make sure that your bio is updated. I try and have one that's only 150 words. Any more than that, and it can get a bit long and drowned out. You can have a long form one if you want, but I just try and keep one that's really succinct, and if possible, maybe include something a bit quirky about you as a fact as well. then the top sort of left with this pie chart is me sort of saying to you to look at your calendar year. So what are the key dates for your year? What are the national days like today? What moments can you hijack on as your business, either to be talking on social media or to have content prepared to be pitching to press about? And lastly, this kind of like book area, I keep a notebook for all of my content ideas, and I split these into 3 pillars. So I have business expertise. So that's going to be my top 10 mistakes, the things I've learned, the question I wish PR, like people interested in PR would ask, that sort of thing. I have a middle column that's more human interest. So things that I talk about that relate to my business but aren't directly linked. So I talk a lot about shared parental leave or working from home. You know, they seem like quite cliche, but I always try and put my spin on it. My partner is French and a dyslexic, so we talk a lot about different working practices and creativity in the workspace. So not directly linked to what we do for work, but has that sort of human interest angle. And lastly, I have a passion points column. So that might be how I bring fun into my weekends, or how we bring I saw something the other day do a really good one. It was a photographer on how he likened growing tomato plants in lockdown to growing social media channels. And I think this is a thing to think about when you're thinking of yourself as this media publication, like we said right at the beginning. What are the different stories you can talk about? What are your features and your lifestyles? Are you a sport person? Are you a food and drink person? Like, think about all the different supplements you get in the weekend newspapers, right? And then think about what you've got that you could talk about that relate to them. Because you know what? When you say to somebody, oh, I quite like watching TV, probably zero connection. When you say to somebody, do you know what? I was obsessed with Selling Sunset. I was bereft when it finished. I can't wait for the next series. There's going to be people in your audience niche who's also seen that show who are going to want to talk to you and connect with you on it. And people buy people, right? So the more we can show a bit of our personality underneath like what our business and service is, the more likely we are to get these great connections. And I guess the other thing is that when I say personal branding, people think that personal means literally showing your personal life. And it doesn't have to be like that. It's just, I say it's like just lifting up your skirt, showing a tiny bit of ankle, just a bit of ankle, nothing too much. But, you know, just get a bit of who you really are out into the world. Okay, what are we on now? 20 past. We're doing well, peeps. We are doing well. Tactics. Okay, so I want to talk to you about some different ways to get press out there other than just writing a press release. So let's start with the first person article. And actually, if you think about Metro, this really kicked off in lockdown. They obviously weren't doing the print circulation anymore, so they upped their digital content. So I actually pitched a piece about my milk being nicked. It was really oh, can I swear? I don't know, it was really annoying me anyway. But I'm now set up as a verified writer for the Metro. And I don't know if you can see in the slide, it's saying I'm author of Hype Yourself, founder of the Wern, a PR and design consultancy. So now anytime I want to pitch an opinion or comment piece to Metro, I don't have to just be talking about my milk being nicked. You know, I can talk about anything. So actually think about the things that are happening in your day-to-day life and how you can pitch them. They also started a load of columns in lockdown. So it was like my life in quarantine, my life through a lens was like a picture story version. So like basically if you've got a picture that really illustrates your life, you pitch the picture and then talk about that. This one is Jane and my name is Jane Austen. So as anybody that had a celebrity name could put themselves forward to talk about how having a famous name affected them. With all of these examples, the name of the journalist and who to pitch to is on there. So yeah, have a check out on some of the like places like Metro and look at the first person opportunities there are for you. Next one, comment pieces. So this is my favorite way for anybody to get national press coverage. So instead of trying to pitch your product or pitch your service or say that you've had a rebrand or you've got a book out or whatever, think about what's happening in the cultural zeitgeist and how you can tap into that. So this article on the left, for example, is Hannah Yellen. She talks a lot about celebrity and culture. She's also a lecturer. And, you know, she was hijacking Tiger King and using that as a way to speak to, you know, her audience. If you actually Google how to write a comment or opinion piece for the Independent or the Guardian or the Financial Times, is actually going to pull up all the submission guidelines for you to be able to do that. So what the word count is, what the generic email address is, what they're looking for, because some people are looking for, gosh, it's really throwing it down the frame, what they're if they're looking for you to hijack the news, or if they're just looking for alternative commentary. So yeah, Google is your best friend. Again, I've put it positive news because I think I hear so many people say, I don't like to read the news, it's really negative. The problem is when we only consume our information online, and if you haven't seen Social Dilemma, then definitely watch that. We slip into the algorithm of only seeing stories that our echo chamber sees, and actually news isn't all doom and gloom. And particularly in the pandemic, there was a real thirst for positive stories. And I'm gonna guess that probably we're going to move more into sort of a lockdown environment over the next 6 months. And so we're going to see this call out for positive stories again. So here, I've got examples here from whether you're on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or you're actually looking at stories online. There's lots of people who are doing call outs for positive news. Again, a Google search of like positive news submissions. There's actually positive publications. So if you're doing something for the wider community, if you are, loads of people are doing great stuff for key workers, NHS staff in their local community. So if you're doing anything like that, and I don't do it obviously to get press coverage, but if you are doing stuff like that, people want to hear about that. Talk to your regional publication, talk to your BBC local, think about radio. And it's not just about our business stories, it's about the positive stuff we're doing out there too. Think about trends. So actually, this is my landscape. I'm pointing at the screen like you're sat next to me. This is the landscape photo of me and Adrienne that actually allowed us to get 2/3 of a page in the Evening Standard because we had a landscape image. Working from home is massive again. I'm seeing all over the weekend there was stuff still about how to improve your office, how you can bring in like your energy working from home in winter. We're talking about pantries again, the ways that we're cooking, alfresco gardening, alfresco heaters, how we're going to be doing winter alfresco. Loads of articles are relating to Nordic ways. So I can't remember what the actual term is, but we're supposed to be dressing like an onion in layers. So there's so many ways that we could bring in what's happening as wider trends and think about how they apply to our business or something we have an opinion on. Like, have you done loads of DIY in first lockdown? Are you planning to do lots of DIY in next lockdown? And think about social media trends. So obviously TikTok was huge at the beginning of lockdown. This time now we're probably moving more into reels. So just think about, we know it's probably coming up again. We can have a think about what trends might be jumping on that maybe from a human interest or passion point we can be hijacking. I'm going to skip newsjacking just because I'm close on time now. So online events, okay. So previously, I actually used to tell people, particularly if they're trying to raise their profiles on behalf of their business, to obviously try and get as much face-to-face time as possible. That's a little bit tricky now, but actually the benefits of what's happening right now is we can actually speak on a global stage. It's never been a better time to be doing webinars, roundtables, doing teaching and lectures, doing like online courses. So really, when you're thinking back to yourself as your publication, who can you collaborate with? Who else needs to be in your magazine? Who could be, if you're hosting a panel, who could be on your online panel? Who would you like to collaborate with for an occasion? How can you do collaboration over competition? So I've done an event with 3 other PR experts for small businesses, and we all tapped into each other's audiences, and we had a far greater reach than had I just done it on my own. Do I worry that I'm going to lose any business to them? No, I think people buy into you individually. So I guess really I'm just trying to get you to think about whatever your niche was. Now you can actually think about it more on a digital global scale and where you could be playing to reach them. So I know, for example, that I've got a bit of an audience in the US and Australia, but previous to sort of lockdown, I wasn't thinking about doing any events there. Now I'm beginning to like chase a few breadcrumbs with some entrepreneur platforms in those spaces and offering up to do workshops or talks with them to help broaden my network and push my book sales in those places. So just look at your demographics, who's reading your newsletter, who's reading your content online, how can you expand your sort of audience reach at this time. I'm not going to talk about Christmas gift guides because I don't know how many of your product businesses, but I can answer any questions on that if we get to it at the end. So now I just wanted to talk about little bits of innovation. So this one's actually from an artist called Jean-Julien. He just uses reels really well. And I just think that when you are an artist or a creative or your service, there's a way you can, I used to like click through on this, but I don't want to click through today because I'm not sure what I'm doing on StreamYard. It like plays through a video and he's got a hairdryer blowing all the hair around like the cucumber. This probably seems like a really weird and random example, but I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, how can you take the content you've already got or what you do as a product or service and put a spin on it to just be lighthearted and give some kind of relatable value. This was just a campaign by Lego, and I wanted to highlight this because when anybody asks me who would be my dream client to do PR for, Lego traditionally was always my answer. Not so much now because I'm not pitching for agency roles anymore. But I just think they tap into the cultural zeitgeist so well without hijacking it. So, I mean, hijacking it, what do I mean? I mean that they're not doing it to sell product or with fakeness. They're doing it in a really lovely, customer-centric way that relates to their brand. So this was about them doing a video to help children feel calm about staying home at Easter. So I just think there's some really lovely ways that you can talk about what's happening in the world without trying to sell. And actually that's good for your business. Again, this is another one about like spreading love. The Lego theme is not related here. It was just an artist who was leaving Lego hearts on Valentine's Day across the city. And again, it's like thinking about what are these moments in our calendars. Like, I think there's like, you know, in January the 21st, it's like meant to be the world's most depressing day. Like, and there's like, it's like Blue Monday or something. And then we have like Black Friday for sales. And just think about like moments where maybe you could do this stunt, like cost nothing. It went quite viral in terms of a picture story. So have a think about ways that you could maybe add some creativity to your brand or service by leaving something in the public domain. Again, like this is off the back of actually an awful clip about an Australian boy who'd been bullied and the whole situation with Caroline Flack. Real Hackney Day was an artist who gave away a load of posters saying "Just be nice" at Jealous Gallery. I'm really conscious now that we've hit 12:30, so I'm going to just skip through these.
Just jumping in to say it's fine. Don't worry too much. We can go over a bit if you can. Yeah.
Okay. So just on a final note, and maybe actually this is a bit where I'm gonna take it off screen, and maybe Niki, you can tell me if you see anything on the chat or not. Hold on, stop screen. Stop showing. So yeah, I always get everybody when they're in a group with me to put what their dream big is. And sometimes it's because actually the people in the group can help connect the other people. So it might be, I just want to appear on my first podcast, or it might be, I want to get a book published, or it might be, we had somebody really specifically name a very specific TV show on Netflix they want to be in. So maybe to kind of finish up and before we move into questions or chat, is you could all type into the chat or have a think about what your dream big would be. Niki, I'm going to start with you. What would your dream big be?
So I would love to have a column or even just write an article for Courier magazine.
Love it. That's a good one and very achievable.
Do you think?
Very achievable. Yeah, you just got to put to John.
Yeah, I need to take some action in relation to that one for sure. On
that one, I would say your first action should be follow John, who runs that column on LinkedIn and Twitter, and then start slowly building your relationship with him.
Great, that's a good tip because I do follow him on Instagram, but not on the other two. just while we wait to see if any more questions come in, I was going to ask you, as you were talking earlier, I was wondering about when people are trying to kind of capitalize on these emerging trends or come up with articles that might be a way to get themselves into the press. What are your views on responding to things like hashtag journal request, or, you know?
So I often think, probably if I wasn't talking in sixth gear, I would have normally mentioned that. So yeah, I use hashtag journal request quite a lot. There's also, depending on what your business niche is, there's places like JournoLink or Response Source that you can subscribe to, which aren't too expensive. Or my other favorite, and I think is actually the best and most affordable, is the Lightbulb group on Facebook run by Charlotte Full. And it's only £5 a month to basically get access to a lot of journalists calling out for case studies and entrepreneurs. There's no PRs allowed in there. I'm only allowed in there as an entrepreneur in my own right, and I cannot pitch anybody. And they all the journalists like report if any PR's been in touch. So I literally have to be on my best. So if I see something, I'm like, that'll be perfect for you, Niki. It's like you have to join and you have to pay your membership and then you have to go in yourself. Like I can't do anything. But so they have an announcements tab where there'll be journalists looking for experts, but you can also go in and pitch as a consumer as well. So you could say, oh, I've just I don't know, whatever the I don't know, like one of the stories that I saw was somebody who was doing, this is actually a request, but it's just really tickled me, a journalist who was looking for somebody that has seasonal traditions with their cat and was looking forward to celebrating their Christmas tradition with their cats this year for national newspaper. There's definitely those people out there.
Brilliant. Yeah, my cousin has a birthday party for her cat every year. So she would be perfect. Somebody has asked a question. I'm an interior designer. I can't see the names, sorry, so I don't know who this is, but I'm an interior designer and I would love to design a beautiful space that gets featured in magazines like Elle Deco. Elle Deco? Is that Elle Decoration? Or is it just Elle Deco?
Elle Deco.
Elle Deco. So what would be the first steps for
that? Well, see, I would say to flip that. So your business objective shouldn't be to get into Elle Deco. Your business objective should be to get the client so that you could do that work to get into Elle Deco. So actually, because if you get in Elle Deco, what do you think is going to happen? Like, it's not necessarily going to drive lots of new business or anything to you. It's just a nice kudos. It's great for your brand equity. But actually, if you do a really great job for that client and it goes really well, then they're going to recommend you to their wider network. So really, it's going back to your business objective of who is your ideal client and where are they, and then going after them.
So in that situation, and again, sorry, I don't know who this is asking the question, but this person, should she have that client and then create this beautiful space? Should she then be actively reaching out to Elle Deco to say, hey, I've done this, how about it, kind of thing? Or what would you say?
I mean, once the work's sort of being done, then yeah. And again, it's like, I would be regularly buying Elle Deco. I would be following all the journalists that write for it. I'd be making sure I'm subscribed to all of their online content and consuming anything that they put out there. If Elle Deco is your dream, great, focus on that in a really hardcore way. But it might be that, you know, because it's only, I think it's maybe even bi-monthly now because of pandemic. It's only a monthly publication. There's only so many slots for work to be showcased. So maybe actually you want to go in from an expert angle where you're talking about a color trend, or maybe you could be thinking, okay, it's probably too late for this year now, but thinking about, I would maybe in July be pitching for what my 2021 predictions in interiors are going to look like, and identifying new trends for them to jump back on. Maybe you've seen a difference in interior styles since lockdown, so you want to be talking about how interiors have evolved because of the pandemic, something like that. So really, I'd just be studying that publication and looking all the different ways you could be featured, and then outreaching to them.
Brilliant. And another question. I'm an accredited life coach and would love to write an article for Psychology's magazine. So it's not a question, it's a dream big, sorry.
That's a good one. And psychologies are really open to people pitching to them as well. So again, study the publication, buy it, follow the editorial assistants and the interns on those spaces, because they're the ones who is sort of normally doing the first sift through of the pile, and come up with something unique for them.
Brilliant. And following them, is Twitter still the kind of first port of call for journalists? And yeah,
I mean, I used to be really active on Twitter. I now I basically sort of have a dormant account that I use just to sort of follow journalists and retweet like journo requests. I have like Twitter lists for different journalist niche, particularly if I'm working with different clients. So I might have a small business niche, and then I might have a literary editor niche, and then I might have a gift guide niche. So when I instead of going on and being bombarded by the left versus right wing Twitter debacle that it seems, the hate field that it seems to be these days, I just go in, look at my lists, check if anything's come up, and then get the hell out again.
Sounds like a plan. Great. Okay, well, I think we are all done with questions for now, and I really appreciate all your time today as well. I know you'll have places to be, so yeah, thank you for the whistle stop. I'm so sorry it was on StreamYard rather than Zoom. Who knows what is up? It's just Zoom is not playing the game with Facebook today, but really appreciate you going with the flow and sharing all your amazing tips nonetheless.
You're welcome. Nice to connect with you all. And yeah, I'm mainly active on Instagram, so follow me on @WernChat if you need some PR tips and come and say hey.
Fab. Great. All right. Thank you so much, Lucy.
See you later. Bye.